Welcome to First Responder Friday. This is the open call live edition. Hey, it's the first time we've done this. My name's Conrad Weaver. I'm your host for the program today. We're going to have a number of guests with us today, and I'll introduce our guests in just a moment. But first, I just want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing today. So, as you know, we have a podcast that we bring on first responders, and we talk about wellness and all kinds of different things that first responders are dealing with. And today we're going to do the same, but it's going to be kind of an open conversation. And so I encourage all of you to join with us and to ask questions and to make comments in the comments, and we'll address those as we can. And we're going to have a number of people joining us as we go along. And so, first today, I want to bring on a couple of my friends, my new friends. And we have Greg from San Francisco and Mark from Orlando. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves right now. So, Greg, take it away. Who are you and what do you do?
Hey, Conrad, thank you so much for having me on today. My name is Greg Colasso, San Francisco firefighter for 20 years. I'm currently on totally temporarily disability. And what that means is that I'm not at work and I'm healing from a physical injury. And I also have a mental injury called post-traumatic stress. So I work with a lot of people who have this, and I'm looking forward to sharing more about our organization called the National First Responders Fund, which I'm co-founder of. And there's a lot of great opportunities to get involved, raise money, and have fun.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today, Greg, and glad to have you here. And now I'm going to give it over to Mark.
Hey, it's great to be here. My name is Mark Tavano. I'm a retired cop of 33 years, 8 in Massachusetts and 25 in just outside Orlando, Florida. I'm also a advisor with the 9/11 PTSD film, which I'm really excited to be part of. And I'm a big advocate of first responder mental health. And I myself also went through some issues, 2 suicide attempts, and I'm also diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And so I truly get the mental anguish of being on the job as a first responder. So I'm happy to be part of the team, and this is going to be a great show. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you guys can join us. We got Todd is trying to connect, and Todd, if you can hear me, make sure you tell your camera and your mic to be connected to this. So if you have any trouble, just send me a text. This is really going to be kind of a fluid day today, and just what we talk about. And so we're just going to open it up for questions from the audience. And so if you're watching and you have a question for any of us, whether it's myself, I'm a filmmaker and tell stories. And if you want to ask me something about that, you can ask me. Or if you can ask a firefighter question or a law enforcement question or what we had for dinner last night, ask those kind of questions. It's going to be that kind of a day. Uh, and we hope to have a few more guests joining us as we go along. I know Todd's trying to connect. And let me see if I can get him in here. Looks like he's got to connect his audio and his microphone. I know last time Todd was on, we had a little trouble connecting too. So hopefully we can make that work. Anyway, so what is happening in your communities? I know a number of us have, I know our governor here in Maryland has just issued a travel restriction, and we got to if we come back to the state, we have to take a test, which I just took a COVID test this morning because I'm traveling next week. And I tell you what, having a 5-inch thing stuck up your nose is not really fun, So yeah, that's what I had to do. And so Todd's trying to join us. Hey, Todd, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, we can hear you, but we can't see you. So we'll just,
It says it's on.
Huh. Your camera's not on, but now you have a little black circle or a little white circle. So, well, hopefully we can get you connected.
Let me try again here.
Okay. All right. We're just going to be fluid here. Like I said, we're just going to talk a little bit. So what's been going on in you guys' communities? I know, Greg, you told me before we started here that you guys are in like a lockdown, like major lockdown there in San Francisco.
Yeah, I live in right near the airport, SFO, and it's San Bruno. It's just right outside San Francisco along the peninsula still. And the state of California is, really for lack of words, it's almost like a shelter in place, stay at home. It's not easy. What I want to share with you is, I have 3 children, and they're all 3 of them are in school, about to go on winter break, and it couldn't come fast enough because the way that they're being taught is not healthy. They're just way too much computer exposure. They're from 8 o'clock till even after hours, because it's the only way that they know how to connect, or can connect, allowed to connect. And
speaking
it's
of that,
too much.
I saw a Facebook post from someone that said that they woke up at 2 in the morning and their 8-year-old was scrolling through YouTube. It's like,
Yes.
Wow.
he was like, what the heck? They're so accustomed to going to the computer now and doing everything from there, and she was obviously like, this is not good for my 8-year-old to be on her own at 2 in the morning scrolling through YouTube, because, that's just not good or healthy.
It's not, but it's what they know,
It's what they know.
and it's what they're being taught. So my son is really good at going between a school screen and a gaming screen or a YouTube, because school is really too boring the way that they're teaching them. Too much lecture, too much homeworks, because it needs to be measurable. So somehow the teachers are doing the best that they can, but my children are getting overexposed, and it's almost an addiction, because when we take away the computer, it is like a withdrawal and a tantrum, and it's very hard to watch. But after about a half an hour, they calm down, and my son comes to his senses. But it's a lot of work, and it's not easy on us, and it's a strain, and we're working on it. We're doing the best that we can.
Yeah. Mark, what's happening in Orlando?
Actually, Florida is different than California, where our restaurants are open. The governor is encouraging people to do things, within reason, of course. COVID is serious. It truly, truly is. So we do every Thursday. I do my retirement luncheon. Which I look forward to, because that's a good thing for mental health, to get together with a bunch of your former coworkers and buddies, and we talk about politics, we talk about our prescriptions that we're on, so we're getting old. We're talking about all that stuff, but Florida's pretty open, which obviously, in my opinion, that's a good thing. But we take precautions. We wear our masks, wash our hands. My wife is she's a registered nurse. She does a lot of work with COVID patients, and she's getting the vaccine Monday. So it's just kind of weird. And I think about this all the time, and I don't mean this in a bad way when I say this, but I did 33 years on the job, and I'm sure my wife worried about me every day I go to work. Now, when she goes to work every day, I worry about her, working in a hospital, and she works a lot of overtime. She's the type of person that she'll go above and beyond for her patients and stuff. So it's 2 different worlds. California is all shut down. Florida, in fact, when we get to this, our event today, I'm meeting her for lunch. So, but again, we take our precautions. Absolutely.
It's really interesting to look at. Yesterday, I actually looked at a COVID map that they have. I think the CDC has it, where you can see every county in the country and where they rank. They have different color schemes, and it's really interesting. The Northeast was like yellow, like pale yellow, which is in a good place, and the Northwest was actually in pale yellow. The center of the country, Texas through North Dakota, was like dark red. It was like that's where all the hot spots are. And of course, there are areas in LA, and all the major cities had dark red pretty much, but it's really interesting that, like the Northwest, especially, which is where they say this all started, they've kind of been through that and done that and kind of being able to bring this under control. And, but yet some of the other places, not so much. And then I hear at a friend of mine who's a filmmaker, and he is opening a film in Thailand in February. And he said in Thailand, they're wide open. He said they have like 30 cases in the whole country. And they had early, really tight lockdowns for months, but now they've been able to open up, and everything's back to normal pretty much. And so it's with our country and the way we're organized, and states doing individual things, and then even counties or cities doing individual things, it's no wonder we're kind of a mixed bag of results here. But
Well, unfortunately, politics got involved in this.
right.
And and here's the deal: no matter what side you're on, I respect your opinions, I respect your views, but let's get this country back on our feet. Let's get people healthy. Let's stop the deaths. That's what we need to worry
Yeah.
about. We need to worry about who's voting for who or anything like that. And unfortunately, politics has hit COVID very hard. Unfortunately.
And some people, and I have friends, that who are very opposite of me as far as their thoughts about COVID and whether they mask or not mask. But I'm like, I've had friends to die. I know
Yeah.
people who have died. I
Mhm.
My sister had COVID. My father-in-law is recovering from it now. There's so many challenges and so many people have lost. Like Greg and I were talking before the show here. So many people have died alone,
Mhm.
which
Which is
is
sad.
a tragedy. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't imagine. And I know for the medical staff at these hospitals, and I've seen interviews with people with nurses who said, you know what, they were weeping because they were the last person this had contact with this person who passed, and they see this over and over again, and it's just you talk about post traumatic injury. What's going to happen when we get through this? How many people on fire and EMS services, how many law enforcement officers, how many first responders, how many doctors and nurses are going to be suffering from post traumatic stress coming out of this and all the stuff that they've experienced? And
And
it's
also you talk about that, Conrad. Also, the secondary PTSI, where the nurses see their families suffer, and what I find very tragic about it is that somebody's dying of COVID and they're in ICU and their family can't be with them. That's just got to be horrendous. And you're communicating through like we're talking now. Someone can't talk at all. Uh,
yeah,
that breaks my heart. It really does, truly does.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, I guess Greg, you've been out of work, I guess, this year, so you haven't been on the front lines there, but I'm sure many of your colleagues have, and just their protocols have changed, right, for how do they deal with calls.
Yeah, I mean, my accident happened on January 26, 2020. So I got a head start of, sheltering in place and, being in the hospital. And my surgery for my fractured pelvis was on St. Patrick's Day. My wife dropped me off and they said, at this time, we're not letting anyone in the lobby. By the time my surgery was over, about 4 hours later, she wasn't even allowed in the hospital.
Mm.
So, my recovery was during, the first immediate shutdown, and I was alone and I was scared. And I was with nurses who were strangers. But, I got to tell you, I've got a greater appreciation for what nurses and doctors do because these strangers were my angels and they took care of me. And, it was very humbling. I couldn't go to the bathroom and wipe myself. And here's a stranger doing that for me. And I cried because that hasn't happened since my mother or my father did that for me.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it was something that, you know, I truly respect them so much more now. And I love them for that. And thank you, those nurses and doctors that helped me and continue to help me. I really appreciate you.
I used to work in a hospital years ago. So when I first graduated from college, I had a degree in psychology and ended up working in a psychiatric hospital down in South Carolina. And it was really an amazing place to work. The camaraderie in a hospital setting is really tight. That nursing staff and the doctor staff, they're really tight. They become best friends. They become family, really. And I cannot imagine having to go through something like this, where it's you're at such a more heightened alert, such a more careful in how you do things, and you have to mask up and suit up and all these things to go into people's rooms, and and I know that some of these people are some of the best people in the world.
Mhm.
I mean, there's bad eggs in every group, right? But these people are the best people in the world. They really, truly do care. And um, my neighbor across the street, she's a nurse. She's a home health nurse, so she's going out into people's homes and just thinking about that, and thinking about you know people like her husband, who's a sheriff's deputy, out there on the front lines, interacting with the public. I can rest here in the comfort of my studio, and I don't have to go anywhere unless I'm going to the store to get eggs and milk. But I can kind of hunker down, but they're out there and they don't have a choice but being out there. And firefighters and EMTs and other, first responders, they don't have a choice. They're out there doing their work. And my hat's off to all of them, and for the service they're doing to keep our communities healthy and well, and to do the important work that they do. Um, so so let's talk a little bit about. Well, let's kind of shift here a little bit from COVID, and we're all kind of over depressed from talking about COVID. I know I am. Last night I was flipping through the
Absolutely.
channels, and I was like, I don't want to see any news reports about COVID. I want to see something fun. So I watched the climbing thing about Everest. I'm a big fan of watching things about Mount Everest. It was always on my to-do list, but which shall never happen. But so anyway, um, let's talk a little bit about what organizations you guys are involved in. I know, Greg, you're a firefighter. Mark, you're retired in law enforcement. What organizations are you working with to move the needle forward when it comes to post-traumatic stress in agencies or in organizations? What are you doing?
So what I'm doing is I'm surrounding myself with people who are taking care of themselves. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress injury back in 2007, and my critical incident was in 2005. So I waited, 2 years before I reached out for help. But I attended this retreat in California called the West Coast Post-Trauma Retreat, and it really helped me get to the thing under the thing. I began to feel, well, after about 3 days at this 5-day retreat. And I remember running into Dr. Mark Kamina, who was one of the founders of this program. And he was having foot cramps and looking for smart water at 2 a.m. And I had insomnia, and I still have insomnia. And I was down in the kitchen just pacing around. And we had this conversation, off topic about, PTSI. And I'm very entrepreneurial. And I told him, I would like to do fundraising, because for me to go, I came out of pocket about $2,500. Now it's about $4,700. And there's a gap, because sometimes we can't afford these treatment programs. And that's what my goal was to eliminate that excuse that I can't afford it. No, you can't afford not to get help. You cannot afford to not go to these things, especially if they're paid for. So that is why I created the National First Responder Fund with my partner, Joe Alioto Veronese, where we are now raising money through stair climb efforts and putting those dollars towards retreats like Save a Warrior, or, bridging the gap for peer support training, which we're just beginning to do. And this is, the second time that I've, gone live on doing something like this. And it's very uncomfortable, but I'm beginning to get comfortable in this space to, ask for donations, ask for help. And it keeps me straight and keeps me humble. When the money doesn't come to me, it goes through me. It goes through our organization, and it goes to a place that are saving lives. Because what we're doing right now is trying to help those that are suffering in silence. Mm-hmm. We are having a suicide epidemic within a pandemic. So, all those first responders that are out there are getting pounded, and so are our veterans. Mm-hmm. They're trying to get well, but if we're getting refused treatment, or we can't afford treatment, that's a problem. We shouldn't have this problem.
Right.
We're such a wealthy nation. Yeah. And, that's why I'm here. I'm asking for people to help. And that's the hardest thing to do, is ask for help. So I'm doing it again, because I know that it saves my life, and it's going to save others.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit later. I want to talk about the stair climb that the NFRF host. Mark, I'm muting you occasionally because we getting a feedback loop through your microphone there. So Mark, what are you doing? What are you working on? Who are you working with?
Well, I was going to work with you, Conrad, on 9/11 PTSD, and again, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about that. I do a lot of public speaking and public awareness about suicide prevention, mental health issues, and in the first responder world. And I'm very open on my story of the struggles I went through and my suicide attempts. And the reason why I do that is because I want people to see that it actually does happen, and I don't do it for pity. I do it so somebody that is listening to my presentation says, "Oh yeah, I get what he's saying," or I know somebody that is struggling. And first responders, we're all in this together. It doesn't matter if you're cop, firefighter, EMS, or whoever. It's we're all in this together. The stresses of the job is just absolutely incredible. So my big thing is awareness, getting the word out. I have no problem getting in front of a group of 2 people or 2,000 people, pretty much whoever will listen. And like the old saying goes, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So that's what we got to do. And Greg, I want to offer my assistance to you. If I can do anything to help you out, brother, I would be more than happy to help out. And I'm also getting ready. I've been talking to a writer about possibly writing a book of my life. And it's been a rocky road. There's been good times. Don't get me wrong. There's actually been fabulous good times, but there's been some rough times also. But my point in my life now, in my retirement, number one is I'm at peace. And number two, and actually probably number one is like Greg said, I want to give back. I want to help our brothers and sisters, and they don't have to be first responders. Anybody that needs assistance, I'd be more than happy to. And retirement is great. Growing my hair long, and that's the thing I wanted to do for years. So I do things that make me happy in my life.
Yeah, Mark's quite the rock and roller.
Absolutely. Yep.
Oh, man.
Actually, just bought myself a little gift right here. I can't really see
sweet.
it well, but it's an LED guitar.
Oh, cool.
And I'll learn how to play the guitar, and it's not coming along that well, but I'm learning. Talk about stress. A chord, B flat. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Hey, I got to give a quick shout out to a couple of people that are watching. John Salerno from Mad Radio and a badge of honor says, "Hey, we support this movie," and he says, "God bless you all," and then he's a fan of Mark.
Oh, I love John. John's good people. love John.
But not only John, but Maddie is watching, and here's what he says about Greg. And so I want to say,
Maddie.
Just a shout out to these guys.
Maddie is. I met Maddie at Save a Warrior when I went through cohort 050 in Malibu, and not too long after I went, Malibu burned down, and it has never really recovered here in California. The retreats were now put together by beg, borrow, and rent. And it's the programs like Save a Warrior is saving lives. I mean, it's the best program that is out there right now, and that's another organization that I want to do fundraising for, as well as your movie. The PTSD 911 resonates with me because I'm all about that. I have cumulative PTS, and I had a near-death experience that woke me. And now here I am doing the most uncomfortable thing, but I'm very comfortable in this space. And Mark, thank you for offering to help. Brother, we do have a lot in common. I love rock and roll. You look like one of my best friends, Ron Vazali. He's a rocker. And,
he's probably a heck of a guy.
I love him. And I love you too, brother, because, you just being here is a connection. And that's one thing, that's the biggest thing, is that I miss human connection, and I miss being with men because I'm with a lot of females in my house. I've got a wife and I've got 2 girls, 18 and 16. Alyssa just turned 18 yesterday, and we had a small pod of her friends come over, and everyone was masked up, and that was difficult for her to blow out candles with a mask on. But, we made it, and we're having fun because I'm in a different place. And I want this for all my other brothers and sisters. And, it is a human issue. It's not it's not just we're veterans and first responders. It's everyone has some type of trauma, and we're learning that a lot of this is childhood trauma stuff that goes through us, and why we select the jobs that we do and why we do what we do. And now that I recognize that, I want to have fun. I want to help other people. I want to see this movie become successful. I want to help get it funded, and I want more people to get involved. I mean, bottom line, folks.
Well, I'm really excited to have all of you on, and we're going to welcome Todd. Although Todd just sent me a text, said the computer says the camera is working, but obviously it's not. So I think Todd, we can probably hear you. Are you there? Hello, Todd. Maybe not. Anyway,
Well, Greg, to touch on what you said, love you too, brother. And one thing you said was when you were in the hospital, your wife had to drop you off, and all you had was the doctors and nurses. And as we know in the first responder world, when somebody gets sick, somebody gets hurt or whatever, everybody goes up to the hospital. There's a lot of fun, a lot of ball busting.
Yeah.
It's good times. So when you said be around the guys and all that stuff, that's something I miss also. I get my retirement lunch where I see the guys and girls I used to work with, but I do miss the shift work and the shift work and just the camaraderie and laughing and joking. And then when it's time to go to work or game on, it's game on, man. So
yeah,
I miss that a lot.
Mark, the way that I'm connected now is through Zoom, and I'd like to, maybe start a Zoom with you where we can have like a retirement group or something like this that we can just continue on a weekly basis and just check in. But Conrad, absolutely. We should check in with Todd right now.
Yeah, we should check in with Todd. Todd, welcome to the show.
So can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Yes.
I'm on my personal cell phone.
Okay. Well, wow. Well, thank you for making the efforts to join us. I really appreciate it. Hey, I'm going to bring you on full screen here and give us kind of the cliff notes of who you are and what do you do.
Okay, I'm Todd Jerry. I'm the mental health liaison for the Garland Police Department. 18 and a half years on with the Garland Police Department. About 16 and a half of that, I was working patrol. So I have a lot of firsthand experience with exposure to occupational trauma of all different levels, like just the lower level ones, higher, mid-level, and then big spikes of really traumatic ones. And I see what that has done to me. And I can see what it does to my colleagues, especially it's magnified when you don't get any kind of good support, resources, treatment. I'm also on the board advisory for this awesome planned film, PTSD 911. It's a real honor to be asked by Conrad and to join all these other really amazing people that are part of this film. I'm also the current president of NAMI North Texas. And that's really pretty exciting because NAMI National has decided to have a look at PTSD 911 and look at partnering with Conrad. And so I'm really excited about using we're one of 700 local branches of NAMI National. We're NAMI North Texas. I'm really looking forward to having our branch really try and be at the forefront of seeing how we can best partner with not only PTSD 911, but best partner with law enforcement to try and increase NAMI's activities of helping out with first responder resiliency. NAMI is already really good about CIT stuff related to law enforcement, and we're going to see how we can kind of push forward to get NAMI doing a lot more nationally and locally with first responder resiliency. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, thanks, Todd. I'm glad you're able to finally get connected here. Hey, speaking of NAMI, just this morning I had a conversation with the folks at NAMI National, and we are planning to bring one of their people on the podcast in January. And it's not on the Friday schedule, but it's going to be on a special event in January. So watch your schedule for that because we're going to talk about a lot of things with NAMI and what they're doing in the first responder community. The first responder community for them, I think, is fairly new. It's not a long-term initiative for them that they have been doing in a long time. So they're diving into this because they saw a need. They saw, hey, we got to do something for our first responder community, and so they're jumping in kind of with both feet. And we're going to learn more about that on the show sometime in January. So stay tuned for that. Um, what do you guys think that needs to be done just as a whole in the first responder community to be able to help our first responders stay healthy? I know, Todd, you're really active there in the Garland Police Department in Texas. You know, what kind of things are you doing to help your fellow officers stay healthy and well?
So one of the things I'm trying to do to help them stay healthy and well is just like get this conversation normalized. That's like one of the biggest first high barriers is just trying to normalize that this is just like, brain health is just like any other health for your body. It's not any different than when we trade information on who's the top surgeon to fix our knee, our elbow, our bicep, our low back, any other ailment that affects the human experience. And some of them are magnified in the first responder profession due to the type of work. So that's one of the things I'm trying to do is, and that's kind of like, to me, if you don't have that, then you can bring out all these best programs and resources. But if it's not normalized to utilize them, then you're kind of just the hamster on a hamster wheel. You're not really getting anywhere. So that's something that we're really, really working on. I have signage posted up around our police department in high traffic areas where I know a lot of the officers have to go from certain divisions. So where the body cam by patrol, there's signage out there, 5 resources that I rotate out about every 30, 60 days. I'm putting signage around where I know CID units go, the academy staff and the academy recruits go. And the signage up there just starts to be part of that normalization. You just see it. It's kind of like seeing the bathroom that says men or women for the restroom. It just becomes normal. You just see that signage. You read it sometimes. It's in the gym. That's part of what we're working on. Is just got to make the conversation where this isn't like a taboo thing or a weakness link thing or anything. That this is just normal healthcare so we can perform at the highest level possible, live the healthiest, happiest lives, not just us, but our families too. And then after that, I started like really trying to, I had to locate things that were really the best resources for my staff, for our staff. So I didn't want to just do something like the path of least resistance for me and say, hey, go use our EAP because it's free. I didn't want to just have that. That's one resource. I don't discount it, but I wanted to add other things that were specialties. The same way that like when I needed help with an injury to my low back, and it was just a wear and tear injury. It wasn't a one big traumatic. It's kind of like the occupational trauma for our brains. You don't have to have one real hardcore incident. It can be a bunch of smaller and medium ones that lead to the condition that you find yourself in. So I wanted to go looking around in North Texas and find the best resources for first responders that were here. I know there's some really good ones in Florida and some other parts of the country, and sometimes our staff might go use those, but I wanted some geographically appropriate, so I reduced that distance barrier. So I just started looking around and seeing, hey, I don't have to go get a grant and try and find someone that doesn't know much, but they're part of the grant, some psychologists that might be just dipping their toe in this, because we've got 22 Kill here. So 22 Kills is awesome resource. They've already got numerous therapists, psychologists that themselves are retired law enforcement, and now they're a therapist in their second career, or they're combat veterans, and now they're a therapist in their second career. And then they have all these awesome non-traditional programs. That's one of the things, Conrad, to your point, and you're going to get me talking like a million miles a minute, because this is really important to me and to us here at Garland Police Department, to the chief of police here, Brian. Non-traditional is something we're working hard on, because we've noticed that and other professionals I've talked to in the brain health field, we've noticed that is a really good entry point. That's a good gateway point, rather than trying to ask one of our personnel, one of our staff to like jump right to psychiatry and medication or something of that nature, a big leap. We can ask them about, hey, with 22 Kill, you can go on, you like to hunt. I know you like to hunt. You can go on this hog hunt with them, with a bunch of your peers. And some of the other people on the hunt are going to be people that speak your language. One of the therapists that, was in the Army like you were, or is retired police, and you're in the same field. And you're going to be getting therapy with your peers that are in similar situations as you, and then with some professionals there in the field. but you're going to be doing something very non-traditional. You're going to be out hunting, hiking. You like to ride motorcycles. They got a wind therapy program. So I'm really trying to focus on normalizing the conversation. This is just healthcare, just happens to be your brain, but it's just another organ in your body. It's no different than if your knee gets an injury, your brain can get an injury. And we're trying to normalize that through several different processes. And then I was just working hard to find really good local resources. And, 22 is Kill is just one. There's Our Watch. I've located numerous therapists that are really, really versed in first responder trauma. And they are because they went out and got that experience. They're married to a firefighter, or they used to work in the firefighter services, but they're retired police, or they were in the military. Just really trying to access local ones. So I removed the barrier of I'm telling somebody to drive an hour or 2 hours or get on a plane or something of that nature. So that's.
I want to jump in and ask Mark, in your 30 some years of experience, have you ever had a chief that had someone that's focused on mental health for the officers?
I've directly worked for. There's been interest, but there's been nothing full steam ahead, unfortunately. Now, in the years of me doing my presentations and peer support training, things like that, I've met some phenomenal chiefs, sheriffs, directors, whoever you want to call them, that are really gung-ho on mental health, wellness, and suicide prevention. But unfortunately, we have a long way to go when it comes to it. It's a huge buy-in, unfortunately. It really is. And the number one, and I hate to say an excuse, but I'm going to call it an excuse, is we don't have the money. Well, I mean, I was never big on budget. I never made a budget. My wife does all the bills and all that stuff. So I just, it's for me, I buy it, But here's the deal: if you can budget your money and you have people to budget your money, well, sometimes you have to pay Rob Peter to pay Paul. So let's cut back on one program now, do another. Now, unfortunately, the world that we're living in right now with defunding the policing, the police, that's going to be tough. But
that's probably going to be one of the first things that gets cut, right? Is that kind of training and wellness stuff. So,
but a healthy cop or a healthy first responder delivers a healthy product.
Yeah. So Todd, what is your budget for this, if I can ask?
So this budget year, I don't know yet. I don't know the dollar amount. I know the chief should know by now. So it's just something with COVID-19 knocking us back and shifting focus to other things. I can't tell you exactly, Conrad, and to Mark's point, that is a very valid and I think non-confrontational, non-antagonistic question when you're having an intellectual conversation with leaders and decision makers in law enforcement, in first responder, fire services, is to ask what you just did. Can you share with us, you don't have to tell us the exact dollar, but can you share us, what's your budget for anything resiliency for your staff? Because, the decision maker, the chief, the sheriff, whoever it might be, they know that stuff. They know what their budget is from everything from janitorial all the way up to investigative and training. They know all those things. And I think that's a legitimate, fair, non-antagonistic question to ask. And the leader, the decision maker should know that. That should be something they can tell you.
So Greg, in the fire service in San Francisco, do they have a budget for mental wellness?
It looks like they finally have, for a long time, it wasn't, there was only 2 paid firefighters that were responding. They were called the stress unit at the time. It sounds like they're changing to the behavioral health unit. And there is a chief now, a battalion chief has been put in place to overlook these types of programs and training. And what we're finding is that peer support is numero uno. It's the best. It's the healthiest way for us to connect. When we're working in these paramilitary organizations, some of us have a fear of authority, and it prevents us from reaching out to help. Sometimes the leaders in our departments are not the ones that are taking care of themselves either, because once you get up there, you're no longer one of us. You're one of them. But who is them when you're actually, working for now the city or your agency, and you're kind of stuck. And who wants to open up to you when it could be used against you, and possibly, lose your job? And that's what my thinking was, is that how am I to reach out for help if I have this post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a mental health disorder, does that mean I'm crazy? Are they going to 5150 me? Or do I need to be 5150 because I've got suicidal ideation? Who do I reach out to? Well, someone came back for me and said, hey, me too. Someone said that it's okay to ask for help. And I did. And they did it in a kind, gentle way. They said, hey, there's this organization that needs help in the kitchen. They need someone to wash dishes and help prep the food. Well, guess what? I ended up at the retreat, and in the kitchen is where a lot of the work gets done, because people feel comfortable when they're around food. And that's kind of my numbing agent. I check out with food, and it's great, because sometimes people get to the root of why they are there. And we know that these calls that we go on are horrific, but the studies are showing it's childhood trauma that gets us where we are. And Todd, I really appreciate all the stuff that you're doing, uncovering the local connections, because we're finding that we want people to be culturally competent clinicians if we're going to look for someone for that type of support. And it's great to hear that we do have first responders who are going back and getting their therapy licenses to give back, because that's someone who I want to work with. Working with a civilian, unless they give something up about their trauma so we can trauma bond, I am not going to give up what is really messing me up. It's just as simple as that.
I think all of this, to what Todd was saying, it all comes down to leadership. It all comes down to the leadership having the vision to implement these things, so that the rank and file now feel comfortable, because the leader is saying, hey, we're doing this. We're going to make this a cultural thing in our agency. We're going to make it, the standard operating procedures. When the leader makes that decision and leads that initiative, then the rank and file can follow suit. So just this week, a little teaser for what's coming up in January. A couple days ago, I had an interview with Stephen Cass Stevens. He's the immediate past president of the International Chiefs of Police. Amazing work he's doing at his agency in Illinois. And he had some amazing things to say about leadership and about this whole issue. So be sure to join in with the conversation on January 8th for his interview. And I just want to give one teaser that he said. I asked him, what do you do when you have an officer coming to you and he or she says, hey, I think I'm dealing with some stuff, can I get some help? And he said, you know what? I would much rather have that officer come, ask for help, and get help and see a psychologist. And I know they're seeing a psychologist for these traumatic incidents. I would much rather have that officer on the street than have an officer on the street who's hiding their stuff and not talking about it and not getting the help. Because I know this guy or girl over here is getting the help, and they're going to be healthy because they're making the effort to do it and they're getting the help. When you're hiding it and you're trying to deal with it on your own, then it could be trouble. Then you have stuff that ends up on the evening news.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me, Conrad, is that, you made a really good point. It's like, would you prefer to have someone driving your apparatus who is on medication than someone who is self-medicating?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and how many, just for you guys, how many people do you know? You don't have to raise your hand, but how many people do you know that have been self-medicating and have been driving the apparatus or doing patrol?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I'm sure it happens every day.
Well, to touch on a little bit on that also, is people that are suffering from PTSI. One of the symptoms is outbursts, and they're angry, and that's a symptom I struggled with for years. I would go to a meeting and I would punch the table and I would yell and I would say, "This is stupid," on and on and on, and that led to discipline issues, and it also led to a reputation of, he's got a big mouth, but I was struggling, and that was my way of getting it off my chest, is by being angry. And in all reality, I am the exact opposite of an angry person. I'm very fun loving. I like to joke around. So when we see a coworker that all of a sudden does a 360 and becomes very angry, or their work, like in the law enforcement world, they used to do a lot of traffic stops and now they do none, or they're the first one to run into a fire and now they're kind of stepping back a little bit. Like I always use this line all the time. The FBI would call that a clue, and you've got to so you've got to address these, and you've got to have that difficult conversation with yourself and with your coworkers. We're adults. We can do this. We can absolutely do this. But the stigma and the taboo of seeking help is just so bad. And if I can just touch on one more thing, I was in the Midwest a couple of years ago to do a conference. And the chief of police that ran the conference said, "Hey, I'd like to meet with you the day before when you get in and go over some stuff. And where am I doing wrong here in peer support, on and on and on." Well, and it was a good sized agency. One of the things I noticed was when I got off the elevator at the police station, there's his office right there, chief of police, big sign. Right next to it was peer support. I'm like, oh, no, get rid of that, like right now, And I said, my advice right now, chief, is put that in a separate building. And he listened, and he said the calls and of officers reaching out for help increased after they took that out of the building.
Yeah,
he was a good chief, he really was. But there's the stigma and the fear. Oh my goodness, I'm going to go to the peer support units right next to the chief's office, and
he's going to see me go in.
We're paranoid by nature, so it's it is what it is.
So I've heard different things. I've heard other people say that their peer support and their agency, they really wouldn't go talk to them because they're just not that good. And I don't want to, talk to these people. I mean, how do you get the right training for peer support?
So,
yeah, go for it, Todd. I'd love to chime in after you.
Yeah, cool. So that's a really good question, Conrad. It gets debated all the time. It kind of pulls in the people that are pro and against CISM model and things like that. And so what I think is, it's like almost like with anything in life, a hybrid is what you're looking for. So you want more options for your members. You don't want to just have one path. Like, we have CISM for you and then boop, we're done. We want to have different options. We want to have more than one path. So one of the ways I found working with people around here and in other parts of the country is we want to have a hybrid. So we want to have good peer support here, that we do the hard work and we vet the members we have, and we find the ones that are the most vested in this and buy into it and have like a passion. You can't teach passion. So we got to search for those people. And that's a challenge to find the best ones that have a passion for it. So we want ones here that are good like that. So then I want to partner. I don't want to just stay in my lane or stay in my silo. I want to partner. That's why I created Lima. I want to partner with other agencies in North Texas that have the same passion.
What's Lima stand for?
Law Enforcement Mental Health Alliance of North Texas. So we're just the North Texas branch. If other areas want to open branches, I'll consult with them and they can see if they want to try and use the model in their area. So I partner with Lima members, and I find out other agencies that are geographically appropriate to us. They don't have an hour or 2 hour drive. And we meet with their peer-to-peer teams, and we kind of suss it out and vet it out that they're just as passionate as us. So then I have that option. So we say we just had a 6-month-old infant, and they had to do CPR. Patrol did CPR on the infant, and the infant didn't make it. I mean, that is traumatic, man. That just rocks you. And it's during the pandemic and all and stuff. A lot more agonies going on. And maybe none of those officers want to talk to me or any of the other peer people because they're just not at that point that they're going to let me in to their inner workings like that. But then I can tell them, hey, I've got this other option with this Farmers Branch PD peer-to-peer group, or Rowlett or Rockwall. I can find another one that's anonymous, and then maybe they'll be interested in that option. So that's what I think is so important, that we don't want to stay in our silo or our lane, or just think we've got EAP, boop, we're good, or we've got CISM, boop, that's all you need. That's the magic pixie dust. So I want to provide options like that, where it can be our staff. Garland PD is kind of too small with 350 officers, so you're really not anonymous. Maybe I don't want to talk to anybody that knows me, but maybe I will to a peer-to-peer that's been vouched for from Rockwall PD, because I don't know any of those guys. I know they speak my language. I know they're exposed to occupational trauma, but I don't know them on a personal level. They're not going to remember my name, and maybe I'll feel more comfortable to bear what I need to bear, to ventilate what I need to ventilate, to like start that process of processing that trauma that what went on. But I'll turn it over to Greg because I want to hear what he has to say. I can tell.
Yeah, Todd, we're just meeting for the first time, and Mark also, but we're all on the same mission. And this is what I'm hoping for is, collaboration and sharing of resources. What's so important about this peer support program is that if these peers are out there reaching out for help, they should be in program. They should, attend some of these retreats like Save a Warrior or the West Coast Post-Trauma Retreat, or the ones that are in your own community. And Todd, you may not have been on, but, I co-founded this organization called the National First Responders Fund. So we're looking to fund programs that make sense. And we're looking for partnerships for both your organizations. So then this way we can create something that works and make it scalable and duplicate it, because a lot of stuff that comes up nowadays is, how do we have satellites or chapters in other states, doing this? And what I'm finding is that there is a lot of pop-up first responder and veteran organizations. So that's a whole job in itself, is how do we vet the ones that are really, getting people well and doing a great job. And I think that's the fun part for me is I get to go vet these things. So, once this COVID thing is kind of under control and we can start traveling again, I want to come out to, both parts of your towns. I want to experience, being with you guys, get to know you, and support your organizations, because we are doing the same stuff, and that is suicide prevention. Yeah. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I think you bring up a really important point, and this kind of was an issue when I worked on my last film called Heroine's Grip. There are so many organizations in that space, and how do you know who the good players are? How many, how do you know who not to play with? And that's tough to be able to discern that, especially coming like someone like me coming from the outside, looking at these agencies and at these different things. I don't always know who to play with, so to speak. And that's why I put together this board of advisors for the film, so that I can, throw things to my board and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? Do you know anything about this group or that group? And I get feedback, from them. And so I think that's really important to know, because there are some bad players out there. There are some people that want to just take advantage, and they're in it for the money, or they're, they just want to take advantage of the situation. And we want to avoid those kind of organizations.
Yeah. And like, even if they're not a bad player, they might be just very inexperienced. So like, they might be a psychologist, been in the field for 30 years, say, but they've never been interested in first responder. So they don't have any first responder occupational trauma experience, but then they get connected with the grant. And so then they bring a bunch of money, and man, first responder agencies, at least in North Texas, when they hear the word, oh, it's free and I'm bringing the grant, you just need to sign on, they can be quick to sign on to that and not really lift the hood and see for a second, oh, wait a minute, this psychologist has 30 years experience, but 5 minutes experience with first responders. So that's like something that's like part of the equation, where they might not be, there are bad characters and one's just for the money, but there's also ones with the right heart, but they have no experience. And then if we look right over here to the left, 22 kills here, and they have tons of experience. So maybe we should use them, even if it costs a little bit of money or something, and not just go with
Hey, Mark, I think you had some experience kind of in your dealing with some stuff where you kind of, if I remember right, you had one counselor that kind of didn't work out, then you found someone that really resonated with you. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I went to about actually quite a few mental health professionals before I found my present one. The ones I went to before my present one, they weren't connected to first responders, or and honestly, they just didn't get it. And I don't mean that in a bad way when I say that. My present therapist, Jamie, she's a retired officer. She went through some struggles in her life and her career also, and she is phenomenal. She gets the first responder world. She gets the the stress and the traumas of the job. So I'm right on board with that. And what I saw also when I was active, when I was on the peer support unit, was when we posted if there was a position um, for peer support, we used to call them peer support specialists, is a lot of people would apply. Then when they went in for an interview, and I'll give these people credit, I don't agree with them, but I give them credit. You would say, well, why do you want to be on this team? Well, it's good for my resume. It's good for career enhancement. Well, see ya. I've got nothing for you. It's not right here. And that's what it takes to be right there. Now, you don't have to go through a traumatic, be diagnosed with PTSI to be a peer support specialist, but your heart has to be there to help others. That's the bottom line. And I don't care how many titles you have in front of your name, behind your name, or anything like that. The bottom line is, if as long as it's right here, that's what it's all about. And unfortunately, we see that in the first responder world. Some people are just trying to build their resume or climb the corporate ladder, and I that really hits a nerve with me bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and me too. It goes for also the peers, right? Not just the clinicians that we are seeking to connect with. It's the peers. It's like a lot of people who are struggling and reach out for help and then come out the other end. Those are the ones I want to work with. That's who I want on my team. I don't want someone who is just, stacking their resume and showing up to a critical incident and they don't know how to hold space or contain their own emotion. It doesn't have to be about emotions. I love emotions. I hope to see more men cry, because that's something that I've been holding in my whole life. And now, I can be vulnerable, and I want to be vulnerable because that's my true self. That is where I'm learning how to connect with people, is by being transparent and vulnerable. And that's who I want to work with on providing training for the peers. So Todd, if you've got a group of men and women who want to dive into some training and you don't have the funding for it, well, that's why the National First Responder Fund exists. We want to eliminate the excuse that you can't afford to do this stuff. So let's talk, you know?
Awesome. Yeah.
And Mark as well, and Conrad, there's no reason why this movie should not be funded. We live in the state of California, number 6 in the world of producing some coin. So come on, it's really hard for me to be here in California when I've got friends in Ohio who are doing the Save Warrior work and they're raising millions of dollars, but California has having a hard time with stepping up. So I think it's just that they're misinformed. They don't know what we're doing. And by having a movie and by having, the stair climb, which we can go into a little bit later, and doing this type of networking, I think the corporations that are out there are going to see that they can get a return on their investment if they just invest in us.
Well, yeah, I really appreciate that. And I know that as we continue to go down this path and continue to host this program and work on the funding, and I'll be attending some events this next year as long as COVID allows us to do that. I'll be making more and more connections, hoping to attend the FOP's wellness summit or conference or something like that in Nashville in February, as well as I'm talking to the IACP, their wellness conference that they have. I think it's going to be in March, hoping to attend that as well. And just making connections with people that to tell our story for the film, that we can get this made. Because really our goal, my goal for the film is to do 3 things. One is to help raise awareness to the general public about our first responders and to raise support for our first responder communities, and really to help those city leaders and planners to hold the purse strings to say, hey, you know what, we need to invest more money instead of less into our first responder communities to help them be healthy. And that's one of my goals for the film. The second goal is to smash the stigma of asking for help. I think we all know that has to be done. Right. And then the third goal is to inspire leadership to make changes in agencies to provide more resources and training for their members, whether they're police officers or dispatchers or whatever agency types you're with. Those are my goals for the film, and I think we can rally around those goals. We can get this film produced and made, and I can't believe it's already been an hour that we've been on this show. So I don't want to take too much more time to do this because I've got some other things I got going on, and I'm sure you do as well. But just really quickly, let's go around the room here, and let's start with Greg. Greg, share a little bit about the stair climb, what you guys are doing with that, where people can connect with that, and what kind of give us the nuts and bolts about the stair climb.
Okay. Well, the stair climb is something I've been very passionate about. As a firefighter and 9/11 happened, we lost 343 firefighters in the building, plus, some police officers and, a bunch of civilians, just, human carnage, horrible, right? But the 5-year anniversary, I started this first responder stair climb in San Francisco with a little help with a couple firefighters that knew what they were doing. And that's really key, is mentorship. So I'm going on about 14 years of organizing or being a part of a stair climb. But for the first, 10 years, I was doing fundraising for nonprofits that weren't giving back to first responders, So, Joe Aliotto Veronese and myself did this pre-climb, and we did this, it was a walk talk where he put on my firefighter gear, and we went into 555 California, which used to be the B of A building, and it's 52 floors, 1,197 steps. And by the time we got up to the top, he heard my whole story, and we had this vision of creating a nonprofit and doing these stair climbs and raising money. So we're going on our 5th year next year. Next year is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. There's a lot of momentum. We've got an amazing sponsorship that is going to help carry us over there. And it's Farmers Insurance, who's stepped up, and they're going to have the title of this year and next year's climb. But what we found out is that we may not have a live climb next year, but we didn't have a live climb this year, but we did a virtual climb. And the virtual climb raised more money this year than it has in the live climbs. So next year, the goal is to have a combination of a live climb and a virtual climb, and inviting folks across the nation to either come to San Francisco or create a climb in their own city, or do something through our organization that will raise money to offset or pay for peer support training, retreats, and anything else, so we can bridge that financial gap. So it's huge.
Go to nfrf.org.
Yep, nfrf.org. My email is greg@nfrf.org. And I'm open for dialogue and conversation and partnership. This is stuff that is really important because really, I truly believe that there shouldn't be a cost for saving a life, and all the money in the world is worth saving one of our own, our brother, our sister, our mother, our father. I mean, can you imagine not having the person that's in your life right now? I mean, wouldn't you pay any amount of money to have that person with you if they passed away or died or killed themselves? That's what kills me. It's that I was close to, checking out myself. And this is the type of stuff that keeps me sane, sober, and waking up. And I do it for free.
Well, thank you for your service and for what you're doing for your community and for the firefighting community, the first responder community around the country. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to participating in one of those climbs this next year. Mark, tell me a little bit about what you're doing. I know you're available to speak. You've done some workshops and seminars around the country. And what's coming up for you? What are you working on?
Well, I'm going to join you at the FOP. I made my travel arrangements this morning, as a matter of fact. So I'm looking forward to that, to make some contacts. I just want to continue my exposure of going to conferences, speaking at conferences, attending conferences, helping out any organization that needs anything. And I want to get rid of the stigma. I want our first responders to say it's okay. And I know it's a cliche statement, but it's okay not to be okay. And I just that's my goal. It's my long-term goal. And another long-term goal I have is here. I'm here in Central Florida, Orlando area, and is to have a home for first responders or a retreat or something like that. Because in Central Florida, we don't have anything, and that's a long-term goal. And I just made contact with somebody that has a lot of property, and we're going to start talking about it. So hopefully that will come together. But the bottom line is, I want to drop the numbers in first responder suicides. I want to drop the numbers of mental health illness, and I want to lead by example. What I mean lead by example is not patting myself on the back for my struggles, but just to say we got this, and we truly do. And we have a great team. We got this.
Awesome. Thank you for your service to our country and your community and all you're doing, and for working with me on the film and being one of the first advisors that we brought on. So thank you so much for that.
Well, I thank you for Conrad. I'll see, and I'm sure Greg and Todd feel the same way. You're not a first responder, and you're coming into our world, and that's going to be difficult because you know how strange we are. But thank you for what you're doing for the first responders. As an outsider looking in, that's absolutely incredible.
Well, it's my pleasure. Yeah, feel privileged to do it. Todd, what's going on in your world? What you got going on?
We're just going to keep on pressing forward with our partners here to normalize anything brain health. We constantly want to connect it to that it's just health. Like I'm kind of getting on board with some of the mind think out there in the brain health community that we should just start calling it health. Like it's not mental health, it's just health. It's just part of your wellness program. I'm kind of buying into that too, because there's some stigma to mental health. Language is important. So I want to work on that. We're just working on normalizing. It's just part of taking care of yourself. You're going to introduce yourself to occupational trauma. It's just like I always use, like, since I like to run distance, when I was training to run an officer memorial run that was 10.5 miles, I'm willingly introducing that trauma to my body. Well, I'm going to get injured. The injury is guaranteed unless I learn how to mitigate that trauma. I had to learn how to make sure I rest and hydrate and fuel and all those kind of things and take care of myself. So I was healthier doing the activity. That's the same thing we need to do for our brains when we are in this field, when we are guaranteed to be exposed to occupational trauma. So I just want to keep working on that. And I want to send a message, every time I get the chance to speak, I want to send a message to everybody that's living that may not be as healthy as they want to be right now. I want them to know, that their pain is valid and it matters. And then we've got things that we can help you mitigate that and get back to more of your normal. It's not like a sentence that you're always going to be in this condition. We've got things that are going to help you to see more clearly. It's kind of like when my vision started going bad, distance vision, when I was 23 years old. I've been putting contacts in my face since 1993. I mean, it's a chronic condition, but there was something there to help me be better. I mean, it's never going to go away. I'm never going to be cured of my vision issue. But we had things in place to help me live a healthier and happier life. And that's what goes with our brain too. And you just got me rambling on there.
Well, I really appreciate you jumping in. You've done some amazing work for us in the film and connecting me with people. And just about every day I get an email from you, Todd, that, here's someone else to connect to. And I really appreciate that. And sometimes those connections work and sometimes they don't, but I do appreciate that you're looking out for us and helping us out. And so, yeah, thank you. And for all of you, I really appreciate you jumping on today and being a part of the show. And it's kind of a last minute thing. I was just like, hey, let's just see who all can come and join us. And we had some people that had planned on joining us but didn't show up, but that's okay. We all have things to do. But I want to wish all of you and all of you in our audience a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And what I'm going to be working on is next week, I'm going to be working on taking and meeting my granddaughter. So
nice.
I can't wait. Coming down to Texas, Todd.
I know.
We'll be landing in Dallas next Wednesday afternoon and hanging out down in Waco for a couple of days. So
wacky Waco.
Yeah, wacky Waco. But that's what I'll be working on in the next week. So I'm taking a little break from all of this and coming back in the new year roaring to go, and we got a lot of work to do in the new year on this project and the podcast and the shows. And so we got a lot of work coming our way, and looking forward to bringing you amazing interviews and amazing stories and amazing leaders from around the country. And I'm really looking forward to introducing you to all these people. So be sure to, if you are watching this show, be sure to like it and to share it. And if you could, go to Apple Podcast and leave a review, because those kind of reviews really help us gain visibility to the broader world. And if you want more and more people to hear this and to participate and to maybe learn something from some of these shows, you go leave a review, and it just helps us to gain that visibility. And so I encourage all of you to do that from wherever you are. So Todd, Mark, and Greg, thanks for joining us today for the show. Really appreciate it. I wish you guys the very best, and have a safe and happy Easter and Easter. Why did I say that? Well, yeah, have a safe and happy Easter, but have a Merry Christmas first, right? And a Happy New Year.
Yeah. Before we take off, thank you so much for this platform. And Mark, what I wanted to tell you is that about the music here in San Francisco. A lot of amazing bands have come out of here, and one of my idols is Bill Graham. So, one of the goals that I have in the future is to have like a concert in Golden Gate Park, or possibly at one of the professional venues here. And things are beginning to like line up where having these types of conversations, people are going to, hopefully get on this wave with us and participate, because these stair climbs have great potential, but that's just one event. To have live music and have people come back together again, it's going to be huge. And I think that there's going to be an opportunity for you to do some guitaring.
You've all heard of Willie Nelson's Farm Aid, right?
Yes.
There you go.
First responder aid, right?
Yes. And we would love to be the organization to get behind it and make sure that money is going directly to these places where they got to go. That's what we're all about. We'll open our books to you. We'll show you that the money that we're raising are going to these causes. It's not going to be one of these fly-by-nights that's going to put on a production and then walk away with, even a quarter of the take. It's going to be, pay the musicians, not unless they want to be a partner, and get them involved. Get the musicians involved. How many musicians have been affected by COVID, and when they call 911, who shows up?
Yep.
Hey, show up for us. We're asking for help.
Yeah. Well,
Greg, obviously, count me in, brother. I'll be there. Count me in.
On that note, we're going to wrap up here. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for watching, and again, have a happy Easter. I mean, a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and God
Merry
bless.
Christmas.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.